Okay, let's go back to page 5 now. Back to the adjustable. Okay, so here we're talking about the adjustable. Interest-only payments, yes, for the first 60 payments. Options, they go through that, and then we talk about the change and what can happen in the first change. And then we go over here, the adjustable rate features. Okay, does anybody give me a definition of what the margin and the index is on an adjustable rate mortgage? How does that happen? Who chooses the index and the margin?
The lender.
Exactly right, the lender does. And it's usually the loan officer that does that. So, let's say that you have your favorite lender that you take your people to, and just for the sake of discussion, let's say interest rates today are 4%, okay? But there's another lender that keeps calling you and keeps saying, hey, I've got the best deal in town, and so you call him up and say, I've got this client, I'm willing to give you a try. What's your interest rate? He says, it's 6%. Which one are you going to take him to?
The lower one.
Duh! A no-brainer, right? Not quite so fast, because this index and margin is set by the loan officer. And the margin is usually a number that is around 2 to 3%. Now, they've given us an example here of 4%. It's the same thing. If you went to your favorite loan officer, and maybe for the first 2 or 3, or in our example here, 5 years, it was 4%, but then it went up to 6%. You're not so happy about that, about the service that your client got. Well, what happens now is this gets disclosed right up front. And then they can see, because before, that really didn't even get disclosed at the closing because it's on that addendum to the note I talked about, which just gets shoved past. It doesn't even get signed. It just gets shoved past by the title person, and then they don't even know what the index or what the margin is, and that could easily be a number that's way up there. Okay, now this is a good place for a sidebar. Up until 3 years ago, that number there generated a small or a large number which became income to the loan officer. It's called back-end money or service release premium. You're kind of familiar with that number? That concept? It was never disclosed. The amount of that was not disclosed, nor the amount of the income that came in from that was not disclosed. So the government got a little bit upset with loan officers because many of them were making double and triple income above what they had for their origination fee on those back-end numbers. And it wasn't right. It wasn't fair. And so what happened is the government came in and said, you know what, lenders, you now have to disclose every dime of what that back-end number is. So the higher that number right there is, the higher that back-end number is. And not only do you have to disclose it all, guess what? You get none of it. Not a dime. It's still there, it's still issued by when they sell the loan in the secondary market, but now it all comes out and it comes over to the borrower as a credit to the borrower. It's a great advantage for the borrower. It's made lending a lot cheaper. And I tell you that because what if you have a situation that comes up and your cash from your borrower is tight? They don't have a lot, but they've got enough to make it work. You, the selling agent, have beat up the listing agent really bad, and so you got the sales price down where it's just, the seller's crying, it's so low, but they're okay with it. And then they come up with extra closing costs that are needed to make it work. Well, the seller can't give any more. Buyer doesn't have any more money. What have you got, a dead deal? What do you do? Anybody know? Cry because it was a good deal, not going to work. You can change the back end money, and this is one way you can do it on an adjustable. You can do the same thing on the fixed rate, moving up the interest rate just a little bit, an eighth or a quarter. Depending on how big the loan is, you can generate several $1,000s very easily with just a little bit of an increase on the interest rate. Now what used to go to the loan officer all comes back to the borrower. So you can generate $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 on that back end money to make the deal work. You don't have to worry about the appraisal. You don't have to worry about the seller having to come up with more money. You don't have to worry about the buyer having to go get a gift from their relatives or whatever. It's a really good way that really hasn't been available to you before to make a transaction work. And then the interest rate will get disclosed, and then we'll get to it in a second. You can see where that lender credit was. That's where the lender credit comes in, so they can see, yeah, the lender is helping me out with this. Now, there's no free lunch in mortgage lending, so it's going to be a little higher on the interest rate, or just locking in those cycles, locking in the down cycle of the interest rate, because they vary back and forth, usually more than weekly, almost on a daily basis. Please.
So, Mr. I understand. So, in other words, you're saying that, let's say they need $4,000. They don't consider there's no other way to get the cash.
Yep.
So now the lender will change the interest rate. So in other words, they will eventually pay it on their monthly payment.
That's a good way to look at it.
But the cash amount will be available.
Yes.
Right at closing.
Yes. So, I like the way you stated that. So they're going to pay that over the life of the loan by raising the interest rate just a little bit, but it doesn't take a lot, an eighth or a quarter. So their payment's going up, $10, $15. Well, they've got the house, and most people can usually afford another $10 or $15, and it's going to generate several $1,000s, perhaps, depending on how large the loan is. And it's a good way to make that work.
And that's completely legal now.
It's totally legal. Yeah, we're kind of at the top of page 3 now. So we're going to summarize some things, and this gets kind of interesting. So in the first 5 years of the loan, they're going to pay $56,582 in monthly payment, exclusive of taxes and insurance. Of that $56,000, $15,000 of it went to the principal balance. That's kind of a small percentage, but that's how it's happening. That's how it's being disclosed. You still have the APR. They didn't get rid of that, but oh man, I like this. I love this. Look what they showed over here. This is not your interest rate. People see that number and they think, well, wait a minute, you quoted me 4, but this is coming out at 4.27. Which one is right? What am I supposed to believe? Well, they're telling you that's not your interest rate, and then it's a comparison. You compare program to program, lender to lender, which we have now. And then they got a new one that they throw at us, a new percentage. So it's called the total interest percentage, the TIP. And it's the total amount of the interest you'll pay over the life of the loan as a percentage of the loan amount. You know, they had these big numbers, 300,000, 400,000. Well, now they just give you a percentage of what that is. So it's a little bit different twist to it.